Hello, everybody. Birdie here, and I'm joining you to do a fun spring project. The sun is out, the snow is melting, spring is on the way, I hope. Um, but we are doing the April showers theme for our April Joy Box, and we have this cute umbrella stand filled with flowers. We've got these cute little garden tools, the butterfly, which you can put anywhere, and then the cute rain boots, polka dot rain boots. So that's what we're doing. Let me just show you the example here. I'm going to put that on the side. And I thought the butterfly would be cute on the boots, and these kind of just can lean against those pieces, or you can glue them down. But that's what we're going to be doing. Just look at those bright colors. So fun. Perfect for spring. So if you're like me, you are praying for warm weather. We have still got snow on the ground, and the weather is not feeling very spring. At any rate, let's get into it. So let's go over what you're going to get. I don't have my insert here, but you're going to have your insert is the first thing. Remember, it has links to the tutorials on our website. It has links to the member login screen if you have any information you need to change for your account. It has your Facebook group link, and then it also has my email. So if anything is amiss, you have any questions, you have any issues, please feel free to email me at any time. It also talks about the importance of scheduling your crafty time so that it happens. Just talking about it or thinking about it sometimes doesn't always work out, and we end up shuffling our own time aside for other things. So I really encourage you to write yourself on the calendar. I think it helps solidify that, yes, that's your time. And yes, you're busy at that time with your crafty time. Second, make sure to open your box when you get it and inspect all the pieces. Make sure that nothing's broken or that your paint hasn't exploded or broken or anything like that. And if it has, please email me right away and we will send you a replacement at no cost to you. But I want to make sure that you get those pieces as soon as possible, so when you are ready to craft, you have those available. Second, you can watch the video here in the Facebook group or on our website, whichever one you're watching it. We have two options for you. And then always post a picture of your end product. I love seeing all of your creations. I love seeing how you incorporate your style into it. I love seeing how you use different techniques you've learned in creating your piece. We all get shipped the same thing, and it's just such a cool thing to see how each one is a little different. And also, you're encouraging and inspiring other people when you share. Somebody who might be nervous about using a different technique that you've used, and you share it and they're like, oh yeah, that's how that would look. I'm going to try it too. So you're an inspiration when you share. So I encourage you to post pictures. And I think that's it. So then it also includes the list of supplies that you have in your box, so you can check those off. We are a small business ran out of my home. I package all of your boxes. So I want to make sure that I didn't make a mistake and forget something. So again, let me know if something's not there and we'll get it shipped to you right away. It also lists the items that you're going to need to finish your project. So this month's box includes your rain boot base. So you've got the base piece that's got this bar across the bottom. This is going to fit into your stand so it can stand up. It comes with the 2 polka dot overlays to create that fun polka dot design on your rain boots, 1 for each side. And then it comes with the sole pieces of the boots, 1 for each side. Okay, and then a stand. I don't have my stands, but you should get 2 stands, 1 for the rain boots, 1 for the umbrella. And then the umbrella piece, you'll get the umbrella base, okay? And all of these come off here. So you've got your base, you've got the umbrella handle that's just adds a little dimension to the handle. You've got 6 flowers, 3 of the more open tulips, and then 3 of the closed tulips, and then the umbrella part itself. And we included the inner parts of the umbrella frame just in case you wanted to do something a little different than what we've done here. So in my example, I'm using paper in the background here and then this cutout frame to give me some dimension on my umbrella. But if you didn't want to use the paper, you could use these inner pieces, paint them, and then put them back in kind of like a puzzle. So there's some different ways that you can use this umbrella piece, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. You've got your 2 mini gardening tools, the shovel and the rake, a cute little butterfly, and then you'll get 2 pieces of paper to choose from should you want to use the paper method to decorate your umbrella with. You'll get 6 pots of paint, a white, black, yellow, green, pink, blue, and then a pot of glue for the paper part of that. You'll also get 2 makeup sponges, the sanding block, a tube of super glue, and a black sponge brush. And that is it. And then the 2 stands, which I don't have on display right here. I left them in my garage, but that's okay. So that is what comes in your pack, in your box. What you're going to need is a pair of scissors, a pencil, water, rags, baby wipes, something to protect your table, and possibly a blow dryer if you're short on time. That can really help speed up the drying process. Okay? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to move my finished projects out of the way and we will get started on our April showers. Okay, I'm going to start with the umbrella and just talk about this for a little bit, for a few seconds here. Let me put those aside here. So your umbrella is going to come kind of, it looks like a solid piece like this. And what we've done, and we've done this in the past with small lettering, is cut this so it has the little tabs. And by little tabs, I mean there's little areas where the laser does not cut all the way through. And they're kind of in this upper area here. You can kind of see them if you get really close, and I won't be able to show you on screen, but you'll see where the laser has skipped some areas, and those are called tabs. What that does is that just helps keep all of these pieces together, and especially these small ones, I didn't want these to get lost. So it was easier just to create tabs for them all. So to remove those inner pieces, all we have to do is kind of just wiggle it. There's a little tab here too, I can see. So if I just kind of do this just for a few seconds, it kind of just wiggles out. Okay, and that one is fairly easy. Some of these smaller pieces might just need a little more pressure. And it's best to try and find the tab and kind of press down where that tab is, and then I kind of just wiggle it to break up that wood piece. So again, these smaller ones just take a little more work. Be patient with it. Take your time. If you have a piece that just isn't coming out, there's a couple different things you can do. Like say this little piece's tab is just too big, maybe it's just too hard to get out. You can grab an X-Acto knife, some sort of sharp knife, or a box cutter, and I just put that knife right on that tab and press down, and that usually will help release that little tab. So again, if you're having issues, find the area where it's still stuck and not releasing, take something sharp and just give it a light pressure, and it usually releases that little guy and cuts that tab for you. Let's see, I think this one's gonna work just fine. There we go. The rocking motion kind of breaks up that wood as well. There we go. Okay. So again, option one, we're going to paint the frame and we're going to use paper under it. Okay, that's option one. Option two, you could paint the base and then, you know, add your own painted design. You could do polka dots with the different colors here. You could do stripes. You could do, you know, whatever it is that you want. Have fun. Try different things. Paint this and then just add your frame right on top. That's option two. Option three is you paint your frame and then paint all these individual pieces and just put them right back inside, and that's option three. You could do all different colors, kind of a rainbow stripe color, pink, yellow, you know, one of each, kind of like a beach ball looking thing, I'm thinking. So you could paint each individual little piece and put them back. So with option one and two, you don't need these. You can just toss these. With option three, you would want to keep these to paint and put back in here. So just a couple different ways that you can do the umbrella. Okay. All right, so I'm going to use the paper method. So I'm just going to toss my inner umbrella pieces and we'll get started. All right, so did I say masking tape in what you'll need? Gosh, I hope so. I always forget that. I think pretty much 90% of the videos I forget to say masking tape. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and tape down my small pieces. So I grab a piece of masking tape, sticky side up, and I'm going to tape down my flowers here. Now, one thing to note about the flowers is they're a little different. So you're going to have two flowers that are the same. So these two open tulips, you'll notice that this little piece comes down in front from the left to the right, okay? And then there's one that's opposite of that where it comes from the right and covers the left. And they match the flowers exactly. I tried to kind of make them a little different, but also make it easy to tell the ones apart. Now with the closed tulips, two of them kind of have a curve that points to the right, and one has a curve that points to the left. So I'm going to put this one over here. So you can kind of see how it just has a slight, the whole thing kind of slightly turns that way, and this one slightly turns the other way. If you would stack them, if you stack them on top of each other, you'll definitely see the difference in the shape there. Okay, just to keep you aware of that. So when we're laying those out, it does affect how they lay out. Each flower goes on a specific shape here. I think it's this one that kind of turns that way, so that one goes there. This one, I think, goes here, and then the other 4 are interchangeable, but we'll cover that when we glue it up. But okay, so those are taped. Let's see, I'll tape the other pieces as well. They're a little bit bigger, but it does make it easier to kind of handle them. Remember that this is just a guide. Paint and decorate your pieces however you want. You're welcome to use paint that you have. You're welcome to use paint from another kit and incorporate some of that if you want, however you want to do that. All right, and then I have these pieces I'm going to bring into the fold. We're kind of just going to paint everything. Let's glue these. Let's tape these down too. We'll paint a base coat on everything. I like to just do that and get that out of the way, and then kind of work my way around all the pieces. Okay. And then this piece here. Okay. So I'm going to start with white. Let's start with our white color. And I'm going to paint all of my big pieces that are going to be white. I'm going to use my black sponge brush for this. I'm going to dip my brush in water just to get it damp. And I'm going to try and squeeze out most of that water. Let me bring my water jug a little closer here. I just like to give it a squeeze on the side. It's not dripping any water, but it does help kind of loosen up that paint that might have gotten tacky, and helps your paint flow for this first coat. Wood, remember, is super porous and likes to soak that paint up. So if we can add just a titch of water to this base coat, that really helps seal those fibers so the next coat goes on more opaque and looks a lot better. So because I added water to my brush, it's kind of just blending with the paint, but it also makes the coat look super splotchy. And again, this is just our first coat, so we are okay with that splotchy paint. Remember, multiple light coats is better than one heavy, thick coat. You will get smoother results. It actually dries faster when we do nice light coats. Now, I don't paint my edges. I like to keep my edges that dark laser cut color. It's kind of a dark brown, black color, because I feel like that helps the piece stand out and look more 3D. But you're welcome to paint your edges if you want. That is a preference to you. Just know that they are a dark shade, so it would require maybe multiple coats for those edges. Okay, I think that's all that's going to be white. So I've got my rain boots and the rod for my umbrella. I'll give my brush a quick wash, and we'll move on to the next color. Your paints come on a tray, so use that tray to mix colors, dump your paint out on it, out of the pots if you want, however you want to use that tray, but that is what it's for. And we're going to go with blue next. So I'm going to get a little water. My blue is a little tacky. So I grabbed some water on my brush, and instead of squeegeeing it out, I kind of let it just drip. If I give it a little shake, I can get those drips out. I'm just going to let that paint water sit in my tub and then I'll blend it in with that paint. It was a little tacky. So one thing that we're looking at, guys, is changing the way we ship paints. I do not like how tacky and dried out the paint gets so fast. I want it to last longer. So we are looking at sending out little paint packets, and you might have seen them, especially if you're local. I use the paint pouches, I guess you could call them, at the crafts shows, and I'll use them here and there for certain things. But anyways, we are looking at switching to those. And the reason why that we didn't do it to begin with is I wanted the flexibility to close the paint and come back to it. So in case you needed to maybe work on one part of the project in one setting and then come back to it at another time, another day, later in the week, and finish it up. The pots are great because they have a lid. You can shut it and you can come back to it. But the downside is they're not as sealed as a packet would be, and so air can get into them and they can dry out and get more tacky faster. So after visiting with some and kind of seeing how the pots work, I think the packets would be better. Overall, I feel having the longevity of the paint is more important than having the ability to put it in something. Because ultimately, what somebody even who we kind of visited with in the group said is, well, I could always just throw my pack in a sandwich baggie and close it until I can come back to it next week, or, whatever, if I ever. And a lot of you who I asked also said that you just finish your project in one setting. There's really not a time where you come back to it. So anyways, long story short, I feel like I'm rambling. We are looking at doing that. So I'm excited. It is a different process that we have to kind of think about, and possibly purchase a different machine so that we can do it more effectively. But the other option then would be to, the third option would be not to offer paint at all and allow you guys to buy your own paint. And we've thought about that, and we've polled. I might throw out another poll for you guys to answer. Is that something that you were interested in? So I know a lot of people are short on space, and the having everything available and just, kind of tossing it, all the supplies or used supplies when you're done and not storing stuff is a bonus. Not everybody has a huge craft room. So I don't know. Maybe I'll throw out a survey and get your guys' feedback before we completely move forward with some new machinery on the paint pots, paint packs. Okay, so we've got our blue painted. Now I'm moving on to black. So I'm going to grab all the things that I want to paint black. And got the little butterfly here, this little body and antenna. And then I'm going to grab the garden tools and paint the handles black. To start with, and then I'm going to paint the other metal pieces. I'll paint gray, but before I mix my gray, I'm gonna do everything that's going to be black. So normally I would suggest painting with a makeup wedge, this little piece here, and if you're not going to paint it black, I would use a makeup sponge, makeup wedge. But because it's black and because my edges are kind of that dark color, if I get a little of this black paint on from brushing it on the edge, if I get a little of the black paint on the edges from brushing it, you can't tell. It's the same color. So I'm okay if this process is a little messy, I guess. Normally, because I want to keep my dark edges dark. You know, if I wanted to paint this pink or yellow or white, I would use that makeup wedge to paint just the top using the pouncing method. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a gray for my garden tools. And I'm going to take a little, well, actually, let's just see. I've got black on my brush. So what I'm going to do is, oops, grab some white. And I'm going to dump a little white on my paper here. Again, use your tray. And I'm just going to dip my brush in that white, just like this. It's got the black on the brush already. And as I brush it on, it's going to just blend. So you can kind of see how that's already turning gray just from doing my brush strokes. And because I'm doing it this way, it creates this random, very random gray color that certain areas are a little darker, some areas are a little lighter, which is kind of what I want. I want this to look a little rustic. So we've got my gray there. Grab a little more white for the next one. And the more you work with your brush, the more black you're going to use. And so your gray turns a little bit lighter. But that is an easy way to get kind of a random gray color. So I've used up most of the white, and I have a little more black right here on my brush. So as I brush that on, it's kind of creating more of a darker gray. I'm kind of trying to focus that maybe on the edges where we would see a little bit of a shadow. No, you can't see that. Let me bring that a little closer. And see how that dark gray is kind of peeking out. I was running out of the white on my brush, and so that existing black is starting to kind of peek through and create more of a darker gray. And then I'm going to go one step further with this and create a shadow or a highlight using the other side. So I use this side to create the dark gray. You can see there's a little bit more white here. And if there wasn't, I would grab a little more white. But I'm going to use that tip of my brush and just kind of drag that on my handle there to create this little highlight. Kind of curve it. So I created a really wide smile or more of a parentheses shape. Curving it helps give that handle more of a 3D look, so it makes it look more curved. Okay. All right, so while I have all this gray on my brush, let's just go start adding some highlights to, let's say, the handle of the umbrella. Again, I'm using the side that has the white. Actually, I'm going to grab just a little bit more white. So I put a little white on that tip there. And again, I'm going to curve it around my handle here. And create just that highlight. Give it some dimension. Kind of let it fade away as the white gets deposited. Okay. Then we're going to do that on the do a small little, more of a dot on the face of the butterfly and then the body of the butterfly. So kind of more of a dot on the face and then that big long parenthesis shape kind of round around the body, the bottom of the body there. Let's do that on, let's add some color to the bottom of the boots, just dragging that brush along the bottom there, giving it some dimension. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of scratchy with this type of brush. If you have brushes at home that you want to use for highlighting, you're more than welcome to use those. Remember, this is just a guide. Use your own tools if you have them. All right, I want to add some dimension to my umbrella rod as well. So I'm going to use the other side that I didn't have kept adding white to. It's got more of that darker gray color. And I'm just going to drag a line down. And it's kind of got a lot. If you can see, there's a lot of paint that got deposited. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my finger, run it down. I'm going to lift that up. You could use a baby wipe as well. Kind of blending that in. There we go. It's not so harsh. And then I might come back in with just a little white as well. It's pretty dark. So I kind of added some white to that to make it a little softer. Okay. I'm not going to add any highlights to the umbrella frame. I like it that dark color. So I am done with that black and gray. I'm going to move on to my next color, which is going to be the green. So we're going to paint that green grass that's peeking out of the umbrella and the stems, the leaves, I guess. It's more like the leaves of the flowers, isn't it? And the stems. These black sponge brushes can hold a lot of water, so make sure to have a good rag to squeeze out that excess water so you're not, it can be a little deceptive. It can hold a bunch of water and then you don't know it until you go to paint, and then all of a sudden you've got drips of kind of dirty water everywhere, so be careful there. All right, so I've got my green, and when you put your frame on, line it up at the bottom, you can kind of see where you need to stop. I'm just going to start here and brush out. Again, I don't want this, I don't want to have to paint my edges. So by starting inside and brushing out, I make sure that I'm not depositing paint along these edges. So for example, if I were to start here and brush this way, my brush is, just by science of it, going to deposit a pile of paint on that edge because I'm dragging it off a sharp edge. If I start here and kind of lift up as I go, so I start inside, work my way out, it's not going to deposit any paint on those edges. So I can get away with using this black sponge brush. If you want to use a makeup sponge, again, using that pouncing method, you're more than welcome to use that as well. So right here, we do see a little of where this leaf kind of covers the, I have it covering that rod a little bit. So I kind of create a line there. And then this one kind of is sitting behind the rod. So I'm using the edge of my makeup or my black sponge brush here, just gently pulling that away. The other way to kind of help keep paint off your edge is to use just a small amount of paint. Again, light coats work best anyways. And having a small amount of paint on your brush eliminates pools of it kind of collecting on your edges. If you are using a makeup wedge and you're working around that rod, let me just show you. The makeup wedge has that edge too. So you can take, put paint here, using that edge, you can place it right on that edge of that umbrella rod and kind of wipe away from it as well. And then to get this little V shape with the makeup sponge, again, set it and pull, and you'll get a nice crisp line with just the edge of that makeup wedge. So use either the edge of the black sponge brush or that makeup wedge to work for you when you're creating that V shape around the umbrella rod. Okay. And remember these are a little delicate, so be careful. I was holding mine up when I was painting it. If you are a heavy-handed painter, you might want to have it sitting down just to protect these from breaking. Those stems are fairly flexible. They do have a little flex to them, but you don't want to overdo it and snap your stems. Okay. Next color is pink. And I am going to switch over to a makeup sponge for this. The one color I didn't use in my example was yellow, but I wanted to include it because I know, not everyone likes pink flowers. You might want yellow tulips. You might want to put some yellow out there. And actually, I'm going to maybe incorporate some of it. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to cut my makeup sponge in half just to give me more for my buck. Now I have two. For those that are new, I like to stretch my makeup sponges as much as I can. So I'll cut them in half because typically I just need a small surface. So when you're working with the makeup sponge, I hold it by the skinny part and use the fat end to apply my paint. And so cutting it in half gives me 2. And then I also hate cleaning makeup sponges. Let me see if I can find one that's got one on there. Oh, I might have a clean tub. Actually, I have a tub of them. Let's see here. Maybe. Oh, oh. Well, here's one that I've already cut off. But what I'll do is I'll let this dry right on here. The paint really only goes up maybe 1/4 of an inch. I'll let this dry. I'll let it sit on my table, dry it, and then I'll just snip off the hard crusty bit, and I have another application to use that for. And I'll cut them down. I'll probably get 4 applications out of one little half because I keep cutting them until it's to the point where it's, you know, I don't have anywhere to hold on to it. So for those of you that are new, I like to do that. So keep that in mind too. If you're wanting to use these for other projects, you most definitely can. Okay, so if you didn't know, you can mix yellow and pink together and get this really pretty coral color, which I might just kind of see what that's going to look like. So I grabbed a little out with my makeup sponge, and I'm just going to mix that. It's kind of a orangey coral color. It looks super orange on screen, but it's this really pretty coral color, and you can add more pink to it to make it more of a pinky coral. But I think I'm going to do that for my butterfly. Just adding a little bit of yellow gives it this kind of more of a soft pink. It's not as bright either. Then you could also add white to it and create a light color. So here I'm using this front sharp edge to paint along this edge of my butterfly along that body to get that nice crisp line. So let's see if I can show you the difference here. Here is the kind of pink and yellow coral color, and there is just the pink. So you can see the difference there. It was kind of hard to see otherwise, but see how adding that pink just kind of takes it from being more of a purpley pink to more of an orangey pink, I guess. Anyways, just a quick tip, if you didn't know what yellow and pink would do. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. Actually, let's add some white to my pile here and lighten it up. And just bring in some light colors along the edge. Okay, so I added that lighter color there. I'm going to go get that dark pink or the coral color that I had already mixed and pick that up and just blend right over that light color with the dark original. Just kind of pounce back and forth. I might have had too much white, but we'll see how that dries. See if I can get a kind of an ombre happening. I might have to mix more of the original. Kind of play with your colors. Have fun mixing, adding white. I love mixing colors. I think it's just such a fun way to paint. It's kind of something that we used to do as kids. I see a lot of it when I teach kids how they don't even really care about the project. They just love seeing what colors mixed together creates. You know, that is like the funnest part for them. And I feel like sometimes, you know, we lose that as adults, but it is such a fun process. So have fun with that. Explore different options. So I kind of have more of a lighter shade happening here by adding that white, and I wanted that to be a little bit darker. We'll see how it dries. I might have to add a little more white. Okay, so going into my tulips, I am just going to go right into that pink. I'm not going to wash my brush or my makeup sponge. I just went right into that pink. Whatever color was on there, I don't add a lot of paint to this. We don't want to have gobs of paint on our makeup sponge. We want to have it nice and light to give us a light coat. Remember, multiple light coats are better than heavy, because when we're pouncing on it, if it's too heavy, you're going to have paint fall down the cracks and the edges anyways. Having a lighter coat on that end and a light to medium pressure pouncing up and down will give us those nice crisp clean edges. So you can see I still have those nice dark edges. If you use too much paint or press too hard, you are going to start to paint those edges, maybe unintentionally. So I'm going through and just painting them all pink. Again, use whatever color you want. You could have white, you could have yellow tulips. Mix your colors, make that pretty coral color. Okay. Pink covers fairly well, so in my case, I'm just going to need the one coat. You might need multiple coats depending on the color you choose. If you choose to use yellow, know that yellow is a very low pigmented color, meaning it's super translucent, and requires quite a few coats to get a nice bright yellow. One thing I will recommend if you are painting yellow is to start with a white base or add just a small amount of white to your first coat of yellow. It acts like a primer and will give you a nice good base to work with. So when you go to put that second coat of yellow, you're going to see a really big difference. You're not going to need as many coats, and you'll get that nice bright solid yellow that you're after. Okay, that looks super bright on screen. But there's our pink tulips. You can add a little white, so I've still got some pink. I'll dip it in pink here. So I've still got my pink, super light. What I'm going to do is dip half of it in white, and I've got too much white, so I'm going to pounce it on my paper to get rid of some of that white. So no globs, I should say. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold this up so I don't get paint on that. But I'm going to put that white along the outer edge of my, so I'm going to move my white part of my makeup sponge around the tulip just to pick up the edge of my tulip with that white. I still have that pink on there, so as I keep pouncing, it's going to create this blended color. So it's kind of, is it that glowing look? Just kind of blends with the pink on the makeup sponge. I'm going to do that with all of my flowers, and just having a very small amount of white on the tip. And then just pouncing, and I go up, so it kind of looks super choppy right there, right? But if I go back down and just kind of keep pouncing, It's going to start to blend that white in with my pink. And there we go. We've got a nice, soft, kind of white area on my tulip. And every so often you want to load up with your pink. So go grab some more pink, grab your white again. So you have just a small amount. And just kind of work your way around your tulips. This is a preference if you want to add kind of more of that glowing highlight look. I'm going around the bottom of my flowers. You could just do the tips, the tops of your flowers maybe. Kind of play around with how you want to add some dimension to your tulips. And remember, it's just paint. So if you do this process and you're like, it just doesn't look right, I don't like it, just let it dry and come back over with that solid pink color. There's really no mistakes when it comes to paint. There's always the ability to paint over it and kind of start new with a different color if you don't like what you've done. So don't feel like it's the end all. So this kind of helps give it some dimension. I'm going to go into this yellow and add a little yellow to the tip. So look at how pretty that looks. So I added yellow to my tip, and then I pounced it on my paper. Right here you can kind of see there's this, the pink side and the yellow side, right? I just kept pouncing it. It's got this really pretty sunset look. So I'm going to take that yellow and just go to the tops of my, see what happens. Okay. So it just adds a little bit of that corally type color to the tips there. Something a little different. Okay. And this is looking super flat. Adding the white and then going back over it with that coral color just really didn't do anything. So while I have pink on my makeup sponge here, I'm going to go back into that white. See how I'm not really washing anything. I kind of just let all those colors just work for me on this, but I'm going to just soften this up with some glowing white here on the edges, just to give it some dimension. It was looking super flat. Doing the same thing I did on the flowers, working that lighter edge, the white edge around the edge of my wings, and just tapping until it's got a nice soft blend. And there we go. That looks a little better. It's not so flat. Maybe I'll take some of that white into this little fold here. And you could really have fun with these butterfly wings. You could add polka dots to the wings. You could add some just really pretty designs to those wings. I'm choosing to do more of a solid color, but definitely have fun with those. Okay. So I think everything's got its first coat on. I kind of stopped and really took care of the flowers. Those are done. The butterfly's done. So I'm going to go back and add a second coat to mostly my rain boots is where I really want to focus my second coat on. And the leaves might need a second coat too. Okay, let's get these colors out of the way here. We're going into the white, we're putting that second coat down. And then one thing to note that I'm not showing in the video because I don't have them with me is your stands. I painted my stands black just to kind of blend in with the decor, and I think black makes the stands blend a little bit better, but you could definitely paint your stands any color you want, or just leave them the natural wood color. I think it kind of depends on where you're going to display your pieces, if you kind of think about that, and maybe what they're going to be sitting on, to if you want them to blend in with what you have existing. Maybe it's a shelf that's brown, so you'll leave them the natural, or, you know, I think that kind of plays a part into it, so kind of think about that. But okay, perfect. Nice bright white. We'll set that aside. I'm gonna go into this blue color and get this color in. Now, the polka dots are not interchangeable. They are only going to fit on the one side. So let me kind of show you how you can tell them apart after I get the coat painted here. And I probably should be using a makeup sponge for this, but I'm trying to be super careful so I don't get paint inside my polka dots. Light coats and a light hand really come in handy when painting pattern pieces like this, if you don't want to pull out a makeup sponge. Okay, so let me show you how these work. So the right side of the rain boots has the wider tip up here. You'll notice that it's wider. And it also has a polka dot right on the tip of the boot. So this is kind of a partial polka dot right there. That's your right side. Your left side is thinner, obviously, and the tip of the boot is solid here. So you can see there's that tip right there. The polka dot, that partial, is more towards the bottom of the tip. So this is your left side. It does, you know, it could easily be portrayed like this, but they won't fit on your base that way. So keep that in mind as you're working. Right is wider at the top, has the knockout or the partial polka dot on the tip. The left is thinner and has that solid tip of the boot. Okay, those are done. We'll put those aside. I'm going to go into the green now and give it another coat and kind of play with some dimension on the leaves. So I'm going to grab some of my green and put it on my paper. I'm trying to get this scooted over here. Then I'm going to grab some yellow. Yellow is the perfect color to lighten a green. It makes a perfect spring green. You can see how bright that looks compared to this green. And then you could even add white to it and you get kind of a minty color even. Again, play with your colors. So I've got this spring green and I'm going to just kind of just swish that around. Using my sharp edge of my black sponge brush. I'm going to hold it upright so I'm not holding it like this and getting big strokes. Holding it upright like this and kind of just a quick little flick where I get little lines that kind of help define my little leaves. We're getting quick little highlights almost on those leaves kind of coming out. See how that works? You could use just white too if you wanted to, but I love adding yellow to green and getting that really bright, beautiful spring green and mixing it with this darker green. Okay. And then I also added, you know, you just by really touching the sponge to my stems one side, I can get a little bit of that bright green on my stem, giving them a little dimension. There we go. Love it. Okay. And if you love this lighter green, paint the whole thing that, add a little bit of white to it for some highlights. Again, play with those colors and have fun. So we've got our green painted, everything's painted and we're just letting it dry. Let's go on to the paper part of the project. And again, the paper part is just option one. You've got 3 different options with this umbrella. Using the paper, painting this. So if you're doing option 2, where you want to paint this background, you're going to come in here. What I would suggest is maybe you want to paint your own patterns in here. So what I would do is I would lay this down, line it up along these edges here and along these little points on the right and left. Okay, and then I would take a pencil and just mark inside these loops of the umbrella so you know where you need to paint from that point down. And that way this part stays green. You kind of have that idea of where your patterns and your paint need to start, if that makes sense. So again, lay this out so you can see, you know, where all of your bits for painting need to happen, and then run your pencil along the bottom. That's option 2 if you're going to paint the background, okay? And again, option 3 would paint those inserts and then glue those inserts in. So let's pull out this paper. I'm going to pull out my frame here, and I'm gonna lay it out and trace along the outer edge. Now your piece of paper is going to be about 6 inches wide, so you have plenty of paper to play with. Mine was a little shorter for my frame. You'll notice it kind of stuck outside. That's okay. We want to cut it shorter so it doesn't get shown when we put our frame on. So it's okay that it was a little short. The extra paper, guys, you could use some of that extra paper. Maybe you want to put, depending on which one you got, you could put paper on the base of your rain boots and then this on top and have that pattern kind of peeking through. You could add the paper to your butterfly. You could add paper to your flowers. You could add paper to your handle. Lots of different ways. You could even add paper to just the soles of the boots too, which would be super cute. So lots of different options. You should have enough paper to just kind of have fun and play with that. Once you've got it traced on your paper, whatever you are adding paper to, trace it and then cut it out. I'm cutting on the inside of my lines. Again, I want it to be a little smaller than my frame, so I know for sure that it's not going to stick out past my frame. And because the edges are going to be covered up, I'm really not being too concerned about being super perfect on that. You know, if you're doing the flowers or the butterfly, you might want to take more time and care in cutting out your piece, but I know that all of these edges are going to get covered up. So I'm going to lay this out and just double check. I might have to do some more trimming. Which, let's see, I'm going to play around with the placement of it, make sure I got it in the right spot. So I can still see some of that paper peeking out up here and down here. So I'm going to give it a little more trim. A little off the bottom here. Get it lined up. There we go. Okay, so just double check it, lay it out. You can kind of shove the pieces one way or the paper kind of up or down depending. But once you've got it placed, that polka dot's really cute too. You're ready to glue. Just make sure that you're not seeing any of those edges. I'm going to just trim a little more off this edge. Okay. All right, so then we're going to take your little pot of glue. And I'm going to dump some just kind of on my lid here. I don't need all of it in this instance. And using my black sponge brush, we can apply that glue. You can also apply the glue with a makeup wedge if you have one still, but I like using my black sponge brush. It goes on a little thicker. You want to make sure that you're working fairly quickly for this process. You don't want to have your glue all dried before you put your paper on. Remember, paint or the glue, or excuse me, the wood is super porous, so don't be afraid to get a nice layer on there. Even it out with your brush. Okay. So you should see kind of a nice even layer on there. We're going to take this and I'm kind of more worried about the bottom, making sure that that's not sticking out the bottom. And then we're going to smooth it out. Just use your hands. If you're anything like me, you've got paint all over, so be aware of that when you're smoothing it out. You're not depositing your paint onto your piece of paper. Go. And it's hanging off the edge here a little bit, but I'm going to take my sanding block and just pulling down on that edge will help me get rid of that excess. I didn't line it up quite as well as I wanted to. But there's an easy fix for that. Okay. I'll just double check everything here. Should be good at the top. Yep. There we go. So one thing I want to point out to you is your umbrella is only going to fit into the stand up to this edge. So we're still able to kind of see this excess little tab here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that black so it kind of blends better with the, I'll just use some makeup sponge here. Blends better with the frame and the stand. Just to give it a little coat of paint. Okay. All right, so now if we put that on there, see how well that bottom blends better. Kind of makes it disappear, because you will see a little bit when it goes into the stand. Okay, so let's just take a look at all my pieces. Before we start gluing, I'm going to distress the edges of my polka dots here using my sanding block. I'm going to run that along my edges, and then revealing that wood underneath. This softens those edges. I love the way the look of sanded edges look, but that's a preference thing. Not everybody is into rustic sanded edges, and that's okay. If you like more of that solid look, go ahead and skip this step. Sand up my boot. Soles too, make them look a little more worn. Work on softening up the edges of some of these polka dots, maybe not all of them. Okay. And let's see, let's do this. And the handle. And I'm going to leave the flowers solid, and I will soften up my frame. When you sand things, it might look like it's changing the color of it, where it looks like this black. After I sand it, it kind of looks like a gray. And what's happening there is there's just dust sitting on there. So if you're like, oh man, that made it look gray, just take a baby wipe or a wet rag and dust that sand off. And once it dries, it will come back to that black color. And that's with anything. Sometimes that happens with your blue. It might look like it created a lighter blue, but that's just dust sitting on the surface and it just needs to be wiped away. Okay. All right, there we go. I think that is it. We've got everything painted. Now we're ready to glue. So I'm going to just quickly put my lids on my pots because I am one messy painter and always end up causing bigger messes for myself, setting things in my paint. We're going to use our super glue for this. If you do not like working with super glue, you're more than welcome to use any glue that you have or your preference. Wood is pretty flexible. Just want to make sure that the glue that you use is going to dry clear. For most of my projects, I use the Stick Fast Instant Adhesive. So if you're crafting a lot, this is a really great kind of a bulk purchase. I think this ends up being like $15, but it's better than buying the small little things of super glue. If you like super glue, you could use wood glue. You just want to make sure that it's going to dry clear. You can use an all-purpose glue. You can use Aleene's tacky glue. Whatever your preference there is. Okay, so super glue is an individual bottle, one-time use. When you're going to use it, don't open it until you're ready to use it because it does dry fast. Hold it by the seam so you're not applying pressure to the bottle. The applicator has a piercing device inside of it, so as you put the applicator on, it's going to open the tube for you. So don't feel like you have to hunt down a needle to open that. This little guy is going to open it for you. When you're opening it, make sure that you are opening it with the bottle upright. You don't want to open it like this because the glue will fall out. It's a liquid form. And so just upright by the seam, go slow. Go really slow as you're twisting that on, and you'll see a little bubble at the top, and you know you're done. And it's ready to use, okay? So I'm going to start with my frame. Super glue is super strong, so you don't need a lot, just a couple dots here and there. I kind of go maybe an inch apart each dot. Maybe 2 inches, it kind of just depends. I try and hit kind of the big nodes of the piece. Okay. And be ready for placing it and leaving it. It is fast drying, sets up quick, which is nice, but doesn't leave a lot of room for movement. So keep that in mind. Okay. I recommend having a weight nearby so that you can move on to the next project. So I'm going to put this here. It's kind of got a little, let me see if I can get this in the center. It's got this little flex here, and that's just the nature of wood. Sometimes the wood is got a little bow to it, but a heavy weight will take care of that. So we'll just put that down. Make sure it's all in the right spot, and we're going to set that aside for a minute and let that set up. Now the shovel and rake are done. We don't have anything to do with those. We don't have to glue anything. The butterfly's done. The handle. I'll put 2 drops at the bottom, 1 in the middle, and 2 drops kind of around that curve. The other thing that's handy to have is a set of clamps or clothespins or bag clips work. They can help hold your piece while you move on to the next step. Okay. You also want to make sure that your pieces are completely dry before moving on, because if your paint is a little bit tacky at all, your piece will not stick. And when you're gluing on these, I should have said this before, but before you glue it on, lay out your pieces. There's kind of a small little gap down here at the bottom where your soles sit. They're not right on the edge. There is a small little gap. Let's see if I can turn it just slightly. See how there's a little bit of that white peeking through there? They don't sit right on the bottom. They're offset just a little bit from the edge. And it's not a science, so if it's a little bit off, there's no real wrong way to do it, okay? And again, remember the right side has that big wider top. The left side has this thinner top. And these also sit a little bit inside of the edge. They don't go right on the edge. And then there's a little gap that runs down the center of those. And I'll hold that up. There's also a gap between the polka dots and the soles of the boot. So you can see the gap between the polka dots. There's a gap between the polka dots and the soles, and they're all kind of inset from the edge. Nothing's touching each other and nothing's touching the edge. It's a fun little overlay. Okay, this one's got a little flex to it, so I'm going to put my weight on it. Okay. And we will get our flowers glued down. All right, so remember that there are different flowers. Two of the closed are exactly the same, two of the open are exactly the same, and then you have one that's different. So lay them out. I think I told you guys wrong. Let's see. Okay, so these two are your different. These four are interchangeable. Actually, I'm wrong. I am completely wrong. I designed this file way too long ago to remember. Okay. So the different open is on your right side. Your different closed is on the very far left. Lay them out. You will see a difference when you are gluing them down. They don't fit. So play with those. Lay them out before gluing so you know which flower goes to which base, and then you're ready to go. There is a small difference in those, so be aware of that. Forget all of my previous comments on which go where, because obviously I did not know and did not remember. When you're going to fit your pieces into your stand, be aware that they are tight fitting. They should be tight fitting to hold up your pieces. If you glue or if you paint, painted your edges, painted the bottom of the boots, the paint will add an extra thickness. So you might have to sand it down a little bit to get it to fit. So take your sanding block and kind of just sand straight across. You can also sand the back. And again, you want it to be snug fitting. You want to have a little pressure there so it holds up your piece. You can also use a nail file to sand the opening too if you want. And especially if you want to paint the back, say you're going to see a glimpse of it because it's sitting on a centerpiece or something, and you just want to have a nice solid black back. if you start painting those tabs that sit inside the stand, it can add a thickness to it and cause it to not fit as well. Okay, there's that. How fun is that? Isn't that cute? Gosh, I love tulips. Tulips are my favorite. So with the butterfly, I couldn't decide if I wanted it to kind of sit here on the handle or maybe just on the umbrella itself, or it sits on the rain boot, which I kind of love it on the rain boot. It kind of ties that pink in and pulls all these colors together, but that is your choice. Actually, I think I'm just gonna commit and stop hemming and hawing about it. There we go. And then these little guys I just thought were super cute to kind of prop. But you could glue them down. You could glue them maybe sitting on top of the boots. Well, you might not want to sit them like that, but definitely can do that if you want, or maybe just sat. But these could work well in a tiered tray if you have one, or in any other decor, maybe stuck out of a plant or something. I thought would be super cute, but just an added little extra to these. I have mine just kind of propped up against them. But there we are. That is your April Joy Box, guys. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out, email me, let me know how I can help. If you're missing anything, again, we'll send you a replacement right away, so let us know. And I probably will be sending out a poll or a survey to kind of see how you guys are using your Joy Box. What's the best way to get paint to you? Do you use the paint you get, or do you have your own paint? Would you rather maybe have a small discount on the box and forego paint? But we'll put that out there. I kind of want to make sure that I'm supplying you guys with what you need to finish your boxes. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the month. Happy Easter's coming up. Easter's this next weekend. Holy smokes. But enjoy the sun that's coming out and the melting of the snow. Hopefully I don't jinx us, knock on wood. But anyways, we'll talk to you guys later. Happy crafting. See ya.